This is a special honor for me to have the opportunity to describe our recipients for 2004. Homecoming is a special time on any university campus, and few homecomings in American higher education can rival the blend of activities that we've been able to enjoy over the years on our campus at Western Kentucky University. And this year is particularly cool, with it being Big Red's 25th birthday party. Let's all give a round of applause to America's #1 collegiate mascot, Big Red, 25 years. It is indeed an honor to recognize each of today's inductees into Western Kentucky University's Hall of Distinguished Alumni. This honor conveys our highest respect for each of these individuals who have carried the Western spirit with them throughout their very successful lives, and who truly represent the character of Western Kentucky University. These individuals are a source of great pride for those of us in the Western family, and a source of inspiration to present and future generations of Western students. This year's inductees include Western's first student, a retired two-star general, a graduate who worked on the Manhattan Project. These three individuals will join 60 other Western greats inducted since the Hall was established in 1992. Brad will assist me with the rewards. Now please find a clear view of the screens and the podium as we begin the induction of the 2004 Hall of Distinguished Alumni class. First is Dr. Herman L. Donovan. This year's first inductee, Dr. Donovan, is a source of great pride for me to preside over all of our inductees, but particularly gratified not only as Western's president, but also as an alumnus to bestow this honor on Dr. Donovan. Dr. Donovan was the first student enrolled at Western Kentucky State Normal School. That education served him well, and he went on to become a formative force shaping education in Kentucky for generations. He served as president of Eastern State Normal School, which later became Eastern Kentucky University. Afterward, he went on to become president of the University of Kentucky, serving in that capacity during one of the most difficult yet important time periods in the history of American education. Historian Bill Ellis said, "No one in the first half of the 20th century had more of an impact on public education in Kentucky than Donovan." It is true that he, like his mentor, Dr. Henry Hardin Cherry, left an enduring legacy at Western and throughout the Commonwealth. His impact on the quality of education in Kentucky, and therefore on the quality of life in Kentucky, cannot be understated. The example he gave and the legacy he left are relevant models for today's students, today's alumni, and today's educators across our Commonwealth. Dr. Donovan will be a source of pride for Western, as for many generations yet to come. This year's first inductee, Dr. Herman Donovan.
Dr. Herman Lee Donovan was a leader in the field of higher education in Kentucky. Born in Mason County, Kentucky in 1887, he was one of the first students to enroll at the Western Kentucky State Normal School in 1906.
About 9 a.m., I sauntered into the college building, which made a great impression on me, as I had never seen a building like it. The architecture looked like an English castle with its towers and minarets.
Dr. Donovan's journals in the archives at the University of Kentucky describe his life throughout his career. The section on his early years at Western give us a clue about his lifelong thirst for knowledge.
It was all very stimulating to me. I'd never done anything that brought me greater joy and happiness. Living and studying was a thrilling experience. Never for a moment did I experience a feeling of homesickness as some of the students did.
Donovan graduated from Western in 1908 and began to further his educational knowledge by finishing his BA degree at the University of Kentucky. He earned an MA at Columbia Teachers College and a PhD at the George Peabody College for Teachers. Dr. Bill Ellis, Eastern Kentucky University's historian, has just finished a definitive history of that institution and picks up Dr. Donovan's story as he reached Eastern in 1928.
He was an ambitious man. People don't become deans and presidents without a fair amount of ambition, and you wouldn't want someone who wasn't ambitious to come to a post like that. He hadn't been here, of course, very long until the Great Depression started. First the crash and the Great Depression. So he was immediately faced, like everyone else, with lower budgets, buildings that needed to be repaired, and he was very competitive, as we were saying, and did a very good job of getting money from not only Frankfurt, but as everyone else did. Once the Great Depression started, the New Deal developed programs for individuals and also for institutions. So Eastern tapped into that money, as did Western and the other schools, to build new buildings. And Eastern got money, for example, to build an amphitheater out here, to construct a football field, which has now been replaced, of course, and to get some other buildings. So he was a builder, even though it was a time of depression, and even though the school lost, it had fewer than 500 students when he came here in 1928. It grew to about 700 or so, and then it lost 100 or 200, and then it started gaining again. He was in many ways kind of a late Victorian person with late Victorian standards, and he would, a little bit of a sort of a preacher in him, as many educators were at that time, and were even well into my time of teaching. Educators who felt like that once you get a student to campus, you can mold that student in many ways. You mold their mind, you also can mold their morality.
Donovan's move from Eastern to the University of Kentucky in 1941 wasn't without controversy. Dr. Thomas D. Clark, retired professor of history at UK and friend to Dr. Donovan, says his tenure at the university did not begin easily.
From the moment he became university president, I was deeply involved in a lot of things in connection with Donovan. The faculty here was terribly upset when he was made president. It was pretty much a political thing that that involved Donovan personally, directly. At the time the Board of Trustees elected him president, they also reordered the organization of the university, which upset the faculty terribly. And we really had chaos on our hands for some time. We were able to bring about some peace in the faculty and get things settled down, and Donovan became a lot more certain of his job. He learned quickly the difference between a university and a teacher's college. And of course, he got caught in the war years, very trying years for the university. And I think did exceedingly well. He had an impossible situation almost, as did every other president across the country, trying to hold an institution together with limited enrollment on one hand and overloaded with enrollment on the military side of the institution. I would say that he was about the best man the university could have had for those years. After the war, Donovan had to think in terms, dimensions that he had never dreamed he would have to think. He had to think in terms of university, not a college. There was a question internally of setting the university free to expand in the various fields. None of them more challenging than the organization of a medical school.
After his retirement from UK in 1956, he continued to work for the betterment of higher education until his death in 1964. Dr. Donovan has a legacy that has stood the test of time.
I think he'd want to be remembered as we say in Kentucky, and you've probably heard this statement, a good school man. Somebody that really was enthusiastic, interested, dedicated to public school education, and who knew about finance, how to finance education, who was up to date with national standards, national trends, international trends, and who knew in many ways what this state needed.
Donovan's career embodied the motto, "The spirit makes the master." In his journal, he summed up his feelings.
Reviewing my life, I am persuaded that the 2 years that I spent in college at Bowling Green were the most significant of all my years. It was during this period that I became oriented to life, got my bearing, became ambitious to do something worthwhile, went to work in earnest, set a goal, and determined to follow my star. From this objective, I have never wavered.
2004 Hall of Distinguished Alumni honoree, Dr. Herman Lee Donovan.
Dr. Donovan died on November 21, 1964 in Lexington. His dedication to improving the education for all Kentuckians is something that alumni of all schools in Kentucky should appreciate. His success in raising the bar of excellence in education is something that I, as university president, admire greatly, and I'm honored to accept this award on his behalf. Major General Jerry